I got to the point where I couldn't really speak that much. Like, I couldn't really vocalize what I was feeling. So, like, in my head, I was like, I need to call out and be like, help me. But, like, I couldn't say
But you couldn't say it. Yeah.
I still had pants on. And I was like, she's going to come out in my pants.
I'm Kayla Heater, follower of Jesus, wife and mother of 6 children, Christian childbirth educator and doula, and your host of the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, where we share God-centered birth stories, evidence-based birth education, and our pursuit of surrendering our birth plans to God. Let's get started. Happy week, everyone. I hope you are having a great week wherever in the week it is as you are listening to this. I, of course, am recording this the night before it comes out. So it is the weekend here. Actually spent most of the day yesterday teaching a private class for one of my doula clients who's due in a couple months. So that is always fun. I do teach private classes whenever they're requested, where I go to a couple's house and it's just the two of them and myself, and we do it based on their schedule. And it's usually either all day, like we teach the entire course in one day, which I have done a few times. It is intense and my voice is shot by the end of the day. And it's like drinking out of a fire hose, or beyond drinking out of a fire hose, honestly. But I also offer to do it in 2 half-day sessions, which is what we did yesterday. But it ended up kind of being from like 10 to 4 as like our half day. So it was kind of like throughout the whole day. But anyways, we'll do our part 2 here in a couple weeks, and then they'll go on to have their sweet baby a little bit after that. So excited for that. And also excited because next week starts my next group class, where I have 5 couples joining me for a group class here in the Triad in person. Can't wait for that. These are all fall babies who were due September, October, November, December time. So excited about that. If you missed the train on getting into that group class, or you don't have time or money for a private class or anything like that, our online class is always available on demand at your convenience. That's why we have it there, because not everyone's schedules work with mine. And I totally get that. And also, not all of you live here. Most of you actually, in fact, don't live here, and you live somewhere else besides the Triad of North Carolina. So that's what the online course is for. And if you are ready to get signed up for your birth course, just click the link in the show notes. Okay, let's dive into this week's episode. A lot of second-time moms think they have a longer labor ahead of them than they actually do. And it was no different for Scotlyn when her labor zoomed by and nobody made it to the labor and delivery room before her daughter was born. Not even Scotlyn. But a dream birth doesn't always make for a dream postpartum. When Scotlyn's daughter, Winnie, was 2 weeks old, her and her husband would face a challenge harder than birth itself, as their daughter was rushed to the ER with vitals that wouldn't stabilize, and eventually taken to Duke's pediatric cardiology department. Seeing her daughter in this state was incredibly difficult for Scotlyn, but God used this situation to bring Scotlyn closer together with her husband, closer together with God Himself, and to show her to never take life for granted. Well, welcome to another episode of Surrendered Birth Stories. I am your host, Kayla Heater, and I have Scotlyn back with me today. Scotlyn and her husband shared their first birth story. Gosh, how long ago was that?
He was born August 2023, and I think we might have come on he was a few months old, maybe. So it's been
so
a while.
Early. So yeah, earlier on in season 1, for sure, in season 1. So now she's back because she's had another little baby, a sweet little baby girl, and we are going to hear her birth story today. But Scotlyn, why don't you go ahead and actually, I always try to reference whatever episode you were on. So I'll have Chris find it and link it in the show notes because I can't remember which number it is off the top of my head. But why don't you go ahead and share a little bit about yourself and who you are in your life, because your life has changed a little bit since your last episode in terms of like what you're doing in life and everything. So share with us that, let us get to know you, and then we'll dive into her birth story.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Scotlyn. I'm so excited to be back and to tell her story. It's a really fun one. But yeah, I was actually on here with my husband last time, so I'm solo this time. But we live in Graham, North Carolina, like near Burlington, and we've been there for a couple years now. We love it. And I mostly stay home with my two little ones, my almost 3-year-old boy and then 9-month-old girl. But I also work part-time as a doula. So I work as a birth and postpartum doula with like a local doula company. And that has been just a huge blessing, and I've loved doing that. It's really rewarding. And my husband does construction now. So yeah, we have like a lot of changes since then, but he likes doing that. We're like in the process now of doing like preparing for long-term missions, like being sent out by the Summit Church, which is where we're at now, and hopefully going to be doing long-term missions in Japan. So that's like a big thing in the works, which is really exciting. But that'll probably be a couple years before we get like officially like launched out, because we've got to go through like the whole planning process and like support raising and stuff like that. But
wow, that's exciting.
It is very exciting.
And that's so I can just totally see you doing that.
Thank you. I feel like it is very aligned with like our personalities, and like, yeah, we're both really excited for it. So
cool. In Japan, do you know where in Japan at all, or just somewhere in Japan?
We don't know exactly like long term yet, but we will be in Fukuoka first, which is the city we visited last year when we went for like a short term trip. We'll be there for like a couple years for like preparation, planning, like learning the language and culture and stuff. And then we will be sent out to like a long-term placement after that. So we are not sure where after the initial like couple years, I guess. But yeah, that's the plan. It's exciting.
So
I mean, of course, we don't know. It's like Lord willing, like we know we're at the beginning of the process. So like there could be curveballs and all kinds of things like in the middle of that, but that's what we're hoping for, is like within the next like year or two to get sent out over there. So
wow. Yeah. Well, I pray that all goes really smoothly and the Lord makes the steps like very clear. Yay Japan. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, let's dive in to your birth story. So let's see, you had Apollos. Well, how old was he when you got pregnant with her? Like, give us a little bit of a timeline of that.
Yeah, so it was January 2025 when I found out I was pregnant, and he was about 16 months old. And we had been planning, like, we were thinking we were almost ready to have another baby. Mm-hmm. We were like, oh, I think we're, like, getting close. Like, maybe when he's, like, 18 months, like, we might, like, start trying. But I think because we were having all those conversations, we kind of, like, got a little lax with the, like,
natural family planning
of it all. Yeah. So we were like, well, if it happens, whatever. And sure enough, it did. As if we shouldn't be surprised by that. But I was really shocked, surprisingly. I don't know. I think it was like the timing. I just wasn't quite like prepared yet. So it was a little soon, but I feel like, we adjusted quickly. Like, we were excited. We wanted another baby, of course, and we wanted them to be like pretty close. So we were really excited. And yeah, it just took me a few days to like let it set in. Yeah. And I think I was like a little nervous about telling my family, like, oh, they're going to think like, oh, she just had another baby so quick after the first one. But it's not really, I guess. But in my eyes, it was just like, I don't know. For some reason, I felt like it was soon. But
they're still 2 years apart.
Yeah, they're 2 years. They're like right at 2 years. But he just seemed like such a baby still. So yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm about to have another one. But I got really excited, and my pregnancy was like super smooth, and like, I mean, I had nausea in the first trimester and I had heartburn, but it was like really manageable, and yeah, everything was like smooth sailing.
Girl, I remember vividly, we were at a birth together because you were training and you were shadowing, and it was like the middle of the night or something, and you were with me and you told me that night that you were pregnant. Yeah, and you were like 9 weeks pregnant or something.
Yeah, that was like first trimester for sure.
And I was like, what what? Like, and you're here and you're not like, because I was like, are you nauseous? Do you need to eat something? Are you okay? And you were like, no, I'm fine. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I'm nauseous for you. Like, just,
Yeah, I know. I was blessed. I mean, like I did have to like snack pretty often, but it was pretty manageable. I mean, yeah. It was just like one of those things where only certain things would sound good to me, so I would just go and get like McDonald's breakfast like very
yeah.
commonly in the first trimester, but it was just survival for a little bit and then it like got pretty smooth after that. And I just remember the nesting urge hitting like so much harder with the second pregnancy than it did with Apollo's. Like I don't know what it was, but I wanted to deep clean every inch of our house, declutter, throw stuff away, like all that organizing. It was just really intense this time. I don't know why, but it was very persistent and intense. Like I would not be able to sleep at night and I'd be like looking at some corner of our house that was like disorganized and being like, what can I do about that? So,
Let me just throw it all away.
but it was great for our house because by the time she got here, it was like there's minimal clutter because I've been doing this the whole pregnancy.
So, for those of y'all who didn't listen to her first episode or weren't here, Scotlyn had a natural, unmedicated birth in the hospital for her first. Her water broke first, and contractions didn't start within the provider's preference. So, she ended up on Pitocin, if I remember correctly, and her nurse was incredible, and her nurse ended up being the one to really, and her husband, but her nurse and her husband helped her get through, and she ended up having a natural, no pain meds, but on Pitocin birth, which is always like, those are the ones that always blow my mind, especially in a first time mom too, and your water was broken. I was like, wow, you are amazing.
Well, thankfully, I feel like it went pretty quickly after they started the Pitocin. So I was blessed with that. Like, it wasn't like long, you know, like the active labor was only like 7 hours or so with him. So, but it was that nurse. She got me through it for real. I would not have made it if it wasn't for her. So, yeah, she's the best.
So for this time, yeah, what were your plans this time around?
Yeah, so this time I was still planning on hospital birth, but I was hoping for a water birth, and I switched to the midwives, seeing midwives in the hospital. So, like the faculty midwives at Cone, and so it was really good. I mean, I feel like the care was a lot different. Like I felt much more like just personally cared for. I felt like there was a lot more time in the appointments. You know, as a lot of people say about midwives, like I just felt like there was a level of intentionality that wasn't there with the first pregnancy.
Yeah.
And I just felt like they gave me like really good suggestions to help with things. Like it wasn't like, you know, a lot of times people say like in pregnancy you just have all these symptoms and then people are like, oh yeah, that's just pregnancy, like you just have to deal with it, you know. I didn't feel like they treated me that way. Like anytime I brought any type of symptom or something I was like dealing with, they'd be like, here's like a practical solution, or like here's like an herbal tea you could try, or here's like a thing that we know of, you know. So I felt very supported and like heard during the pregnancy, which was really cool. And yeah, so I was planning on a water birth. I was hoping for that. And you know, I just hoped to like labor at home as long as I could and then come in and have the baby quick was like the plan, you know. So I still wanted to do unmedicated and then just have midwives like for my care instead of OBs. So
well, good. So then, since the rest of your pregnancy was smooth, at what point then did labor start, or did anything happen like near the end of pregnancy that we need to know about?
yeah. So nothing. Okay. So I started having contractions around like 37 and a half weeks or so. Like just at night, I would have like prodromal labor. And it was like every night I would be like, okay, gearing up for it, because it would just come like overnight. And sometimes they were intense enough to like wake me up, but I wouldn't consider it painful. It was just like, I'm aware that these are happening. You know, it would happen overnight, and then in the morning it would just stop. And that happened pretty much every day. Like some days would skip, but I would just be prepared for it like happening during the night. But I wouldn't say it interrupted my sleep that much. Like it was like I would wake up, but not in pain, just kind of like a little bit aware of it and then go back to sleep. So that happened a lot leading up to the end of pregnancy. And then yeah, so my son was born at 39 and 3. And then with her, this was like the weekend before. I guess I can just jump into like when it actually started. So I just kept having the prodromal labor, and I would be like, okay, it just would fizzle out every morning, you know? But then there was this one day, it was like the Sunday on September 7th. It just like kept going through the morning. And I was like, oh, this is different, you know, like it's not stopping. But I still like kind of wasn't really letting myself think like this is definitely labor. Like I was like, well, I don't know, prodromal labor could probably keep going to the morning too. Like it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like gonna progress into active labor. I was kind of like trying to not get my hopes up too much, you know, in case it did fizzle out again. But they kept coming like that Sunday morning. So we didn't go to church that morning because I was like having contractions probably like every 20 to 30 minutes at that point. They were still pretty spread out, and they were more like period cramps. Like they weren't very strong yet. But they were consistent. Like they were happening consistently. So we just kind of went about our day, and we went to the grocery store, we kind of stocked up on stuff. Like we were like, well, just in case like the babies come in, like we'll just get everything we need in the house, like food wise. And then we were supposed to have my parents over for dinner that night. So they still came and like had dinner or whatever. I was just contracting like every 20 minutes or so. Towards the evening, they started getting a little closer together, but still like kind of the same intensity. I would have to like stop a little, but it wasn't really that intense yet. And then, yeah, so we put our son to bed, and we were like, okay, well, maybe things will pick up tonight. My parents were like, should we like stay? Should we take him like with us? I was like, I actually don't know if it's going to progress into active labor. So I don't think you should stay. Like, just go home and I'll call you if we need you or whatever. And then they went home. They live like 45 minutes away, but I was like, I guess if you come back, it'll be fine. So it was like 6:00, or I was probably like 8 when they left, and they were still like not really that intense yet. But then like after we put our son to bed, I feel like it was like a switch flip, because it was like now he's asleep. So it was like something in my body and mind was like, okay, it's time. Like it's fine for her to come now. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's normal. That's common. I hear that a lot with moms.
Yeah.
Once their kids go to bed, then labor like picks up.
Mm-hmm. It was like my body was like, okay, now we're fully like ready to do this now. So it really started picking up after that, but I still just like, you know, went to bed and stuff. Like I wasn't like trying to just stay up, because I was like, well,
because you're a doula and you know that.
Yeah, I was like, if it's real labor, I'm not trying to wear myself out, you know? Who knows how long it'll be? So I'm just going to try to sleep. And I tried, you know. I slept for probably I went to bed around 10. So I slept for probably like an hour and a half or so. And then I got up because they were starting to get I could not sleep through them anymore, or they were getting really intense and closer together. So they were probably like 8 to 10 minutes apart. I remember I got up, it was like 11:30. I got up and went in the kitchen, got like a snack and like a drink or something. And I took a video of myself. I was like, I think like I'm in early labor with her now. Like I was like, I'm going to meet you soon, like kind of thing. I was just starting to acknowledge that like, okay, this probably is like the real thing, because they're getting really intense. That was at 11:30. And then I like shortly after that, I think I kept laboring like on my own for a bit. Like I let Jalen like keep sleeping, because I was like managing them pretty well. Like I was having to I was kneeling over the side of our bed and like swaying and stuff, but like and breathing through them, but like they weren't so intense that I felt like I needed like counter pressure or anything like that yet. Yeah. I was still like doing fine. But they were getting closer. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I should like wake him up, you know? Maybe I need a little bit of support at this point. I was probably like 1:00, 1:30. Like I woke him up, and it's kind of a blur, because at that point they did start getting like pretty intense once I needed his support. That I'm like, what's the timing of it all? I'm not really sure, but I woke him up, and then asking him today, because I was like, I don't remember like those next like couple hours, but I woke him up and he was like, he told me he was giving me like counter pressure and stuff. And then for just a little bit. And then they started getting to like, I was timing them on the contraction app. They were saying like the average was like 7 minutes apart. So I was like, oh, well, I can probably wait till they're like 5, you know? But some of them were closer, and then others were like a little further apart. So Jalen was like, we were like talking about it, and he was like, yeah, I think you should call Christian, like, because I was gonna have Christian as my doula. That's another detail of this all. I wanted Christian there as my doula, and then I wanted 2 of my friends like that aren't married, don't have kids. Their names are both Elizabeth. They're like my besties from college. I wanted them to be at the birth. Like I had planned on them both coming and like being a part of it and stuff, being in the room and everything. Cause they love birth and like breastfeeding and motherhood and all that. And I was like, well, I would love for y'all to be there. They feel very like safe people to me. Like I knew they would be like great support too. Like it'd basically be like I have 3 doulas, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, great. Y'all can come, you know? So they were planning on coming. So around the time that like I called Christian and I talked to her a little bit, she was like listening to me, like going through the contractions. And she was like, yeah, I think since I would say like, if you were a first time mom, I would say you could like wait. But since you're a second time mom and they're like kind of like 5 to 7, I think you should probably like go ahead and get ready to go in. Cause I wanted to give birth in the water, you know, like we were trying to like get there, make sure I could like do that. So I was like, okay, cool. We kind of started getting stuff together. I wasn't really doing anything. I was just having contractions, but Jalen was getting stuff together. And he called, like, his grandma lives next door. So he called her over to, like, wait until my parents could get there to get Apollos. And then he was trying to call my friends to, like, get them to come. Because I guess we all thought we would have a little bit more time than we did. But anyways, he's communicating with all of them or whatever. And then turns out Christian had like another birth at the exact same time. So she's like trying to time it of like when she's like, if she feels like she needs me right now, like I'll come straight there. But I was like, I think we told her like she could wait. I think we were like, it's not really like super duper intense yet. Like she's doing like fine or whatever. So I don't think you need to like.
So she was attending another birth as a doula at the same time?
Yeah, she had like 2 clients, me and another client in labor at the same time. I mean, I wasn't the one communicating this all to her, so I'm not sure exactly what.
Jalen was texting her.
Yeah, Jalen was texting her, but I think like it was basically like he told her we were heading that way, but she had a little bit of time because I wasn't like really needing like that much support yet. It was kind of like I was just fine.
I see where all of this is going.
Yeah, I was breathing through them and all that, but I don't know. They were intense, but it still didn't feel like I wasn't, you know, I was okay. And I was fine, honestly, mostly like dealing with them like on my own. And I kind of liked doing that. So I wasn't really like in a hurry, I guess, for her to come. But I don't know if he told her to meet us there or not. I really don't know. I think he told her she could wait a little because she was trying to decide which one to go to first, I think. So anyway, we got to where we were almost ready to go to the hospital. Then I go to like tell Apollos bye. Like I went to like go, I mean, he's sleeping, but I was just gonna go be like, bye buddy, you know, love you, man. I was just gonna tell him bye because, you know, when I came back I would have a whole nother baby and he wouldn't be my little baby anymore. Oh. So I went to go tell him bye and I had like 4 contractions on the way to his bedroom and back to the car. They kept happening and I was like, oh, okay, we really got to get in the car now.
If this podcast has been with you through pregnancy, labor, or those quiet postpartum moments, and it's helped you feel more confident, grounded, or less alone, I want to share something new. You can now support the show with a small monthly donation or a one-time gift. Your support helps keep these conversations going and makes this resource available to parents who really need it. If this show has supported you in this season of life, I'd be so grateful if you'd consider supporting it back. Visit the show notes to find the link to donate. I truly thank you for being a part of the Surrendered Birth community.
So it was getting really real at that point. And then we got in the car and we are about 25 minutes from the hospital. So I got in the car and it was crazy. I feel like the Lord was like really present with it. Like, I mean, I know he always is, but like I felt his presence like really tangibly because we were, you know, it was very intense at that point, but both of us, Jalen and I, were both like so calm. Like we played on the way there. Like we played worship music. I was just like worshiping and I was having a hard time at that point, like kind of getting through them. But I just remember I kept reminding myself, like, I guess just like not to be afraid of the contractions because it was like my body was doing it and it wasn't like anything to be afraid of. Like it wasn't like my body's attacking itself. It's like, this is what it's supposed to do. And that was getting me through them. I would just like say that to myself or some variation of that. Like, it's not like you don't need to be scared of it. It's just what your body's supposed to do. and that just like kept coming back to my mind, which I wasn't really intending on having any kind of like, I didn't really have any, I guess, set like birth affirmations or things I was going to like say over myself, but it was just like that was what I needed in that moment to like remind myself of, I guess.
Yeah.
And there was a song, I don't know if you know it, but it's called "The Lord Will Provide." It's a worship song. Yeah, that one. It was like my labor anthem. I was listening to it like on repeat, and even leading up to her labor, like I would listen to it and I would just sob. Like, I don't know, it was something that the Lord was like using that specific song for me. So I listened to it a lot, and then a couple others like on the way to the hospital. And then we get there and like, you know how they have the valet parking? I'm like, we don't need the valet. Like, we'll just go park and like I'll walk in. I was like, I don't know why I just thought, I really did not think.
Just thought you'll walk all the way from the parking lot all the way into triage.
Which I did. I mean, I did. Like, we went and we parked in like the first level or whatever. And then you know how they have the little bridge. So we were walking across the bridge. But I was having a lot of contractions. They were happening very often. And especially because we were walking, they just kept coming.
Kept coming closer and closer.
That was just bringing her closer and closer. So they kept coming. And then we finally got in there, you know, did all the check-in and stuff. And like, I was like very much vocalizing at that point through them. And as she's like asking me, you know, my social security number and all that. And then I get in there and I go to the bathroom by myself because I'm like, I'm going to get to the bathroom and like pee or whatever. And then I'll come out and we'll go back to triage. So I go back in there and I like am pretty confident that I like fully went through transition like in the bathroom, because I had all the, I mean, maybe I was like, as we were walking in too, but like in the bathroom was like the most intense contractions of the whole labor. Like they were unbearably intense. And I was by myself, like trying to use the bathroom. I did pee, I think, but it was just crazy. And then it was like every small little movement I made, another one would come and I'd be like, they just won't stop. Like in my head, I was like, how am I going to get out of here? Like, I'm just going to have her here.
Stuck like, in the bathroom.
I was like, and you know how, well, at least at that point in labor, it was like, I got to the point where I couldn't really speak that much. Like, I couldn't really vocalize what I was feeling. So, like, in my head, I was like, I need to call out and be like, help me. But, like, I couldn't say that.
But you couldn't say it. Yeah.
I couldn't say that. So I was just in there, like, trying to get through them. And I was like, finally got up off the toilet, went to, like, wash my hands. I was, like, leaning on the sink and then leaning on the, like, the paper towel thing. Like, just so many contractions. I probably had, like, 4 or 5 just in that one stint because I could not get out of there. And then I get out and then I like go to lean on Jalen for a second because another one's coming when I get out of the bathroom. And then I like feel the like fetal ejection reflex. Like I started like feeling like I had to push, and because like the contraction was starting to come, and then I just do the like, you know, and then I was like, oh boy, that means she's like really coming. So then we like call up the lady because they were like kind of taking their time to get me back there.
Of course they were.
I don't think they really knew it was like that close to come, like she was that close to coming. So they come out to the triage area or the waiting area and they get me. And then, you know, they still don't take Jalen. They only take me because that's how they do it.
And you didn't say like, wait, I think I'm pushing. Like,
it's interesting how they navigated that because they knew that. they
still didn't let him come back?
They didn't at first. So, like, they take me, and honestly, I didn't think anything of it. Like, I'm in the midst of labor. He would have had to say it if he felt it was an injustice because I didn't have the ability to at that point. I was just trying to manage what's happening to me. But I also remember thinking, like, I still had pants on, and I was like, she's going to come out in my pants because, like, I don't have any, like, I haven't taken these off, and I just felt like I was going to poop myself or she's just going to come out in the pants. So I go, she brings me back, and they still try to get me to step on the scale to be weighed. I was like, girl, I'm not going to be able to do that. I just leaned over the side of the scale and started pushing again. Then she's like, okay, we got to get her on the bed now. So they realized they couldn't do all that stuff, like the check-in. And then they take me to the actual triage room. And then they tell me, like, get up on the bed. And they gave me a gown, too. And I remember thinking, like, I can't put the gown on and I can't get on the bed. Like, but I still did. Somehow I, like, managed that. I don't know. Like, in my head, I was like, you're being so ridiculous. Like, how are you asking me to do that right now? But outwardly, somehow my body did that. And then so I was on the bed, and then I guess they realized, like, well, they did a cervical check, and it was like I was complete, and the bag of water was like right there. So my water hadn't broken yet. And then they go back to get Jalen because they realize, like, oh, this is happening like really quick, and we need to get her like up to the room. So they go and get him. And then when he gets back in the room, and like 2 minutes later, they were about to wheel me up to the room, and my water breaks. Like, I felt it, and I was like, y'all ain't getting me up to this room because she's about to come now. And
Wait, are you still in the triage room on the bed?
Yeah, still in the triage room and on the bed. And there's no doctor or midwife or anybody.
But like, Jalen's back there with you.
Jalen did make it back there, praise God.
Okay.
So he gets back there, and I don't really remember like how many pushes once like my water broke. I feel like it was probably like 3. But I do remember, like, after it broke, it was like basically like 2 minutes later she was born. But her head came out first, and then one of the nurses that was in there, because there wasn't like a provider in there. I don't know if it was like, if there was actually something emergent or something that was like happening that was wrong. But like once her head was out, I was like waiting on another contraction to push her body out.
Yes, which is normal.
Yeah, which I knew was normal. And I wasn't necessarily like conscious of that. It was just kind of instinctually happening. Like, it was like, okay, her head's out. And then didn't feel like I needed to push again. So I wasn't. Her head was just out. But they were like yelling at me to like keep pushing to get her body out. And I remember saying, like, I yelled back at the nurse, like, I can't. I don't know why. I guess it was just because I'm not having a contraction. I was like, I can't push right now. And she was like, you have to. And so I did, because I didn't know. I was like, well, maybe something is wrong, and I don't know that something's wrong. So I just pushed her out, like, by force, basically. But now I look back on that, and I'm like, she probably just did that because, I don't know. Nothing has been explained to me, but as far as like what I've read in like the notes and stuff, it doesn't seem like there was any reason why that needed to happen other than like maybe she was like panicking because there wasn't a provider in there or something.
Yes, that's exactly what was happening. She was panicking because there was no provider, and it was all on her shoulders. And if anything went wrong, it was, quote, her fault.
Yeah.
And so she wanted to make sure that your baby came out immediately, and that there was no time for any sort of like shoulder dystocia or like, she wanted to make sure this baby was going to come out. And which maybe she was a new nurse or something, but when babies come out that fast, they're not getting stuck. They are, they're coming right on out. So yes, you can patiently wait for the next contraction. That's totally fine. But she probably was not thinking about that.
A little frazzled. I think everyone was a little frazzled in there. I wasn't cognizant enough to necessarily be like, well, like, I'm going to wait for the next contraction. Yeah. Like, I wasn't that like lucid of it all. Yeah. Because of that, anyways, she came out and everything was fine. I did have a 2nd-degree tear that I wonder if it had any relation to the fact that she was pushed out like that versus like just waiting. But yeah. But everything went well. Like, she came right out, and the placenta came shortly after that. And she was like, she didn't like really latch right away. She was kind of like, I don't know if she just needed a minute or what, but I remember like I tried a couple times and she was like not feeling it. But then later she was fine. So I guess it was just like, wow.
She was frazzled too.
She was like, I'm processing what just happened too, Mom. Like, give me a minute. So it was really sweet. And very low intervention, didn't make it in the water, but it was it was like what I had wanted, like just to be able to kind of do it like on my own. And I did want certain people there that no one was able to make it other than Jalen, but he was the most important person other than us to be in the room. So yeah, it was good. And then, everything was great. I was able to go home like after like 24 hours. So it was a blessing.
Wow. So did a provider come into the room at any point?
Yeah. So we had an OB that came in. I guess it was like the OB on call. And I don't know. Yeah, I guess I should have probably been like, well, I'm seeing midwives, so why is like the midwife not coming to see me, Yeah. But maybe it was because I needed a repair. They had the OB come in and do it. I don't know if they have like their midwives do that or not, but
The midwives can, but when it's like a more extensive tear, then sometimes they'll ask an OB to step in and do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was second degree, but I feel like it healed up really well, and it was probably about the same as my first time, like with healing and stuff. It was similar to that. So, and then we came home and we had to adjust to having two little ones, which was absolutely crazy and humbling.
Yes, yes, it is. I think so. Anyways, that for me, that was definitely that was the hardest one to wrap my head around, was the two little ones.
Yeah.
But did breastfeeding eventually go okay with her then?
Yeah, it's been really, I mean, we're still nursing and she's doing really well.
What's her name?
Oh, her name's Winslow, but we call her Winnie.
Oh.
Yeah, she's just the sweetest little thing. She's honestly the chillest, most content little baby. Like, she's the best. But I feel like, yeah, the main thing that was a struggle with her, like the first couple weeks at home were like, really honestly, I mean, they were hard because of just healing and having a toddler as well. But in terms of like having her and nursing and all that, it was like a dream. And I was like, this is just the best thing ever. Like, I just love that like newborn bubble. When she was about 2 weeks old, she was having one night where she was really fussy when she was like 2 weeks old. And that was, we were like, newborns sometimes just have like a really rough night. But she was like kind of inconsolably crying. And then he like noted that her coloring was off. Like she was like turning like grayish, like bluish. She just didn't look very vibrant. And so we were like getting a little concerned. So we called, I think we called her pediatrician like after hours line, and then because of her symptoms and stuff, they recommended for us to go into the ER. So we took her to Alamete's regional ER, which is like right by our house, but they don't have a pediatric ER. It's just like a regular ER, which in hindsight was like not a great choice, but that's what we did because it was the closest by, and we were like, this is urgent, so we should go to the closest one. So yeah, anyway, we went in there and they checked her vitals and stuff, and everything looked pretty normal. We waited for a really long time, like several hours before she got seen. And then because her vitals were normal, they came in to see us, and they were thinking like it was just like she had mottled skin. Like they were kind of like not dismissive, but they were kind of like, she seems like she's doing fine now. Sometimes newborns just have like weird coloring, and we think that everything's fine. But they did have the doctor that came in to see us like told us to have a follow-up scheduled with her pediatrician for like that if we could, because this was a Friday night. They were, or maybe a Thursday night. They told us to have the follow-up scheduled for like Saturday morning, which was like, we were like, Saturday, I don't know if we want to do that.
Time.
Yeah, but we did schedule it. And I do think that it was like, looking back on it, it's like that is totally like the Lord's like hand on that, because we scheduled it for Saturday morning. So when we took her home, and like she seemed fine for like the next couple of days, and when we went in for the appointment Saturday morning, we kind of thought like it was just like a precautionary thing. We were like, we're going to go in and like they're going to tell us everything's fine, and we were just like kind of anxious parents, and then we're going to get sent home, right? So
had she kept crying over those next couple of days, or had the crying sort of like calmed down?
The crying kind of calmed down, and like her color was like pretty normal too. Like it wasn't like severe anymore. Like it wasn't like, I guess that night was a flare up or something. So anyway, at this point we had no idea of like what was happening. It was just like she has something going on, but we don't know, and we're hoping that it's nothing serious. So we take her into the pediatrician. They go to like do her like check her heart rate, and they can't get a read on it. Like the nurse that's with us keeps checking it, and she's like, I can't get like a good read on her heart rate. I don't know what's happening. So they went and got her like a pulse ox thing. They couldn't get a read on it there either. And then like multiple other people in the office come in as we're in the pediatrician. So then we start getting a little freaked out, because we're like, why are all these people in here? Like, what is happening?
So like, you mean like with the machines, in electrical and stuff equipment, they couldn't pick up her heart rate, or like even when they're listening with like a stethoscope, they couldn't pick it up?
So they started with, I think they started with a pulse ox. They tried 2 different ones, and those weren't working. So then they went to stethoscope.
Okay.
When they went to stethoscope, it was like her heart rate is like over, like well into the 200s, like really
way too
high.
fast. Yeah.
Way too fast, yeah. So they told us at that point, and her coloring was like not looking great then either. So I think it was really like the Lord's goodness to us that she was in an episode when we went to the pediatrician, because she wasn't always. And when she wasn't, it was like her vitals and stuff would be normal, her coloring would be fine. And then like if she was in an episode, it would be like flaring up because her heart was working so hard, like because of those like tachycardia episodes. So
Which you didn't know any of this yet. You were about to find all this out.
Yeah, so at that point it was just like, yeah, she has a really high heart rate, and they were like, we need to get her to the ER now. Like she needs to go by ambulance to the ER. So they called an ambulance, and then we're just like standing there like, what the heck is happening? And so anyways, they also put an oxygen mask on her because they were like noticing that her oxygen was low as well. So anyways, her oxygen was low. They put that mask on her, but they didn't have one that was like small enough for her because she was only 2 weeks old. They had like a really small baby one, but it still wasn't small enough. So it wasn't very effective. But the ambulance got there, and they did not want like either of us to ride in the ambulance with her.
What?
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was with that. We like tried, well, at least the pediatrician's office, like staff tried to advocate for us for that because we were like kind of frozen. Like, honestly, both of us were kind of like, we don't really know what to do. Like, we were kind of just so scared that we weren't like in the headspace of like advocacy. We were kind of just like, we just want to know that she's okay. So we were like, whatever, we'll just follow you to the hospital. So we followed the ambulance, and Jalen like ran all the red lights and stuff, just followed them. So we got her into the Cone ER, and they started like trying to stabilize her vitals. They were not looking good. She looked really bad when she came into the ER, like when we met her there. I don't know if it was because it had been like a progression over time that like, and I hadn't seen her in a little bit since she was on that ambulance ride. But when she came in, I was like, she does not look well. Like she looked very bad. Just like her coloring and was like lethargic and stuff. So they're trying to get her back stable. They tried a few different things. They do like, I don't know if you've heard of this, but like they'll put like an ice pack over someone's nose to like get them to like breathe, and it kind of helps with the oxygen flow. It's something to like stimulate. I don't know. So they did that with her, which it looks crazy when they're putting like they're just like shoving an ice pack on top of like a two weeks old face. You know, it just looks crazy. But we were both like terrified. But yeah, so they're all like honestly kind of frantic because she's not like, her vitals weren't stable, but eventually they were able to get them kind of stabilized. They did end up putting her on a ventilator to get her stable, to get her to be able to get, enough oxygen flow and stuff like that. And they did, I don't know, put her on some medications and stuff to try to like keep her from having any more episodes, because at that point we had a doctor come in and speak to us, and he said, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is SVT, which is a type of tachycardia, and it's not like a structural defect. It's just like an extra like electrical pathway that anyone can be diagnosed with it like at any point. A lot of people get diagnosed with it like as adults, and when they do, it's not as severe usually, because by that point like I don't know.
Adults.
I guess, yeah, you're an adult and you're not as vulnerable and stuff. So it's not as like serious or life threatening, even as like a teenager, but as a baby, it can be. So he came in and he told us he thought it was SVT, but he wasn't sure. We stayed there all day, and like and she did have a couple more episodes, during the day. And so when she did, it was always like a frantic thing. And like
even when she was on the ventilator? Yeah,
she had, I think, one more after she was put on the ventilator, where her heart rate went up. And it was interesting because, like, how no monitor is like really fully reliable.
Yeah.
So it would sometimes read like really, really high, and they'd be like, that's not accurate. Like, there's no way it could be that, but I'm not sure. But it would be like sometimes up in the high 200s, sometimes like 300s, her heart rate when it did go up. And then they did have to like do a cardioversion one time, like shock her heart back into like regular rhythm, which was like the hardest thing, seeing that. And it was such a, really scary and like low point for us. But I feel like Jalen and I both like we just really leaned on each other a lot, and we were like, you know, whatever happens with her, like we don't know if like the Lord is going to take her or like what's going to happen, but we just like we're trying to trust like that he was good. And like it was just really hard, but she, yeah, I don't know, I just remember like feeling so scared and like kind of almost like preparing myself for like hearing the news that she might not make it. But then like it was sort of like things started to seem more hopeful once they like got her a little bit more stable after that cardioversion. Then they like decided to place like an IJ, like IV, through her neck, which was also really terrible to see, but it helped get the medications that she needed like to her body really efficiently. So after that, she didn't have any flare ups or anything. And then they started talking about transferring her to somewhere that has like better cardiology. So she ended up going to Duke, PICU for like a week. She stayed there from like 2 to 3 weeks and was on the ventilator for like a couple of days after we got there. And then eventually she was able to come off, and, you know, I was able to like breastfeed her and stuff like that again, which was like so stressful. Like I'm like 2 weeks postpartum. I was trying to keep up with like pumping during all this because I was like, well, my milk supply is going to be messed up if I don't like keep pumping. But it was kind of one of the only things that I felt like I could do to do for her because I felt so helpless. So it was like,
Was she on a feeding tube?
she didn't have to get on a feeding tube. It was very interesting. So they had her on fluids, and then they did like something, I guess, like through her IV that was like glucose and saline. It was basically like just sugar water for like a few days, basically.
Okay. Like just in the IV. So she wasn't actually eating.
They were like, she'll be okay on this, like until we can get, like, we think that there wouldn't be a reason to place a feeding tube because we would be able to get her off the vent within like 24 hours of placing a feeding tube. Like, it wouldn't be worth doing that.
Doing all that, yeah.
Like putting her through all that if she can make it. But I do remember like the night before they took her off the ventilator, like she was crying out in hunger and like she really couldn't cry because she had the vent, like, but I knew she was hungry, and it was just like the most agonizing experience as a mom, like, to be like, I just can't even feed her, like she's crying from hunger. Like it was just the worst thing. But I felt so thankful and like grateful for the team of cardiologists. It was like a whole different experience when we got to Duke versus like when we were at the ER, because it was like these doctors, they knew what they were doing. Like they had treated lots of babies with this condition, and they were very confident of like how to help her. So it was like a very different vibe when we got there. It was like a whole different atmosphere. Like we got to Duke. We also couldn't ride in the ambulance to Duke, but we met there because when they traveled on the ambulance the second time, she had that whole ventilator situation that would like take up like the whole like ambulance, basically the back of it. She was in like a little incubator box, like connected to a vent and stuff that she had to be transported on, which was really terrifying. But she made it there. And once we got there, it was like, I don't know. It was like we walked in there and I felt like the difference in the room. Like they were like, we are going to take care of her. Like we know what she has and like we know how to treat it. And it's just a matter of like getting her stable enough to come off of these things while also being medicated, and then you guys will be able to go home. So we stayed for like that week, and I was just an emotional wreck. I mean, you know, makes sense, but
yeah, I mean, because you're also healing, like down there.
Yeah.
You're also, your hormones are all over the place, and you're probably not sleeping at all.
Yeah.
So put all that together and then throw like a very sick child into the mix, and yeah, I'm sure you were an absolute wreck.
Yeah, I felt like I had the worst headache of my life because I could not stop crying. Like it just wouldn't stop coming. I kept thinking, there's got to be a point where I'll just run out of tears, you know, like where they'll just stop coming. No, they just kept coming. It was also a really, like, I felt a lot of grief around like being separated from our son too. Because I was already grieving that transition. Like, you know, I was 2 weeks postpartum. It was really tough because he was a mama's boy, like through and through, and like so attached to me. And he was like struggling with that transition. And then we have to be away for like the entire week. We didn't leave the hospital. We stayed like the whole time she was there because we just didn't want to miss anything. Like, if she did have any flare-ups or anything, it was like, this is like really serious. So I didn't feel comfortable leaving. So we stayed like the whole week, and it was really hard being away from him for that long. But we had like a lot of our family that was just really supportive and helped us like through that, and brought him to visit us and stuff. So we were able to like come out and spend time with him. And I think he was obviously really confused, but he was only like, he was just newly turned 2. So, you know, he didn't like fully understand what was going on, but we were trying our best to like love on him still, and like make sure he knew that like we weren't gonna like leave him forever, because he probably thought my sister got here and now my parents are just
gone.
MIA.
Yeah.
So that was really hard too. I remember like really struggling through that, but yeah, it was just, the Lord was like really good to us through it all. And like I felt very like our faith was really strengthened. Like I think during the time in the ER, like was probably one of the lowest points I've had ever, like mentally, like just feeling like this is such a hopeless situation. Like I don't know what to do. It was like when we were waiting, they were placing the IV through her neck, and we had to be out in the waiting room. Like we weren't able to be back there. And the longer it took, the more I like panicked and thought something probably happened and we weren't in there. You know, I was just like it was like I was spiraling mentally through that. But yeah, that was just a really tough time. I was trying to like reason, but it was like my heart was just like so heavy and like grieved. I couldn't get myself to like get to hope, you know, like it reminded me of like some of the Psalms where it's like you have the psalmist that's like grieving. And then like at the end of the psalm, it's like, but Lord, I know that like you're good and like I've trusted in your promises, that kind of thing. It was like I was so deep down in that like hopeless place that like I couldn't get myself to that, even though I wanted to. It was like I knew I wanted to believe these things about the Lord, and like that he was good and that he was going to carry us and stuff. But it was just like I couldn't get myself to get there.
Yeah.
But eventually, once we got to the hospital, like once we got to Duke and stuff, it was kind of like it shifted, and we were just really, we felt very like supported by our family, and also like our church family too, and people just coming to like bring us food and just like pray for us. And that whole week just like kind of rallying like around us and trying to love on us as we were like going through that and a lot of unknowns and stuff. And then we ended up getting to bring her home, and she's on medications for it now. You know, she actually has a follow-up this week, and she takes those meds like a few times a day. And I don't love that she's on those, but like I thank God for them, because I don't know where she would be if it wasn't for those. And if we didn't have access to like the cardiology care that we do, like where we live and stuff. So yeah, that was quite the kickstart to the postpartum experience for me.
Right.
It's pretty crazy.
Probably defined most of your postpartum for you.
Yeah, I think like it's very interesting. Like I think the Lord, after we came back home, like I feel like he just gave me a lot of peace. Like I did struggle like with the anxiety around her health for a little bit, and like certain things are still like a little bit triggering for me, like surrounding her stuff that happened. But I feel like overall, like he's just really carried me and like given me peace. And I feel like I have less anxiety this postpartum than I did with Apollos, and he was like perfectly healthy. There's nothing going on with him. So I'm like, okay, well, the Lord is just like carrying me through this. And I saw a lot of him like showing up for us and his like faithfulness through that, which was really cool. So it was very interesting. It was like jarring, because I felt like I had this like dream in my mind. It was like a dream birth experience. And then it was like this postpartum, like all of a sudden she has this, and it's like, I feel like I was reminded of how little control we have over everything, like with our kids, like their health and stuff. Like there's nothing I could have done to prevent that happening. And we had no idea about it throughout the pregnancy or anything like that. So it was just very sudden. But I learned like, how to trust the Lord and surrender my kid's health to him, because I had nothing to do with her life being saved in that moment. That was the Lord that like saved her. I couldn't do anything. So it was just really humbling, and like, just a good reminder that we aren't in control, and that like our kids are not ours. Like they're God's, and he gives us them to steward and to love. And so I'm very much more like cherishing every moment with her and like just seeing her life as a gift, like even more so than I already was, because it's just like it was like in that moment I was more aware of the fact that like she could not be here, like the Lord could like have taken her, but he chose to like allow us to keep her. So I'm so grateful for that.
Wow, Scotlyn, I didn't know all that. So like here you are 9 months later and I'm like, oh yeah, Scotlyn's doing so good, her and her babies. But wow.
Yeah.
And my heart empathizes with you. We had a different experience, but one of our kids ended up in the hospital for a week when he was 7 weeks old. But that to me was one of the hardest things I have, ever walked through as well. Seeing your child hooked up to all sorts of different things and getting IVs and everything was hard. I can't fathom. I'm so sorry that you went through that, but I'm also so glad for like what you've done with it and like your gratefulness and your appreciation for her life and the blessing that she like truly is for you and Jalen. I love
Yeah.
that part of it for you.
Yeah, me too. I think it just, because I do remember like the first couple weeks of being home, like with her being like stressed about like our house being clean, like wanting to do like other things. Like I would be like, well, if I could just get her to like lay down and sleep, somewhere else, like literally like
That's
the
not on my
first,
boob. Yeah.
yeah, like the first couple weeks postpartum, I was thinking that. And then like I would want to do something with Apollo's because, he was struggling with that transition. So I'd be like, well, if I could just get her to like lay down or if someone else could hold her or whatever, then I could do this other thing. And I think it was just so humbling. Like of course I know that the Lord doesn't like do those things like in like a punishing way. Like I know he didn't bring that about to like be like, I'm gonna get you in line by making this
Yeah.
happen to your child, but like I know that it gave me like a perspective that otherwise I would never have had of like her life is a gift and like I should never take that for granted, like because it could be taken away like in an instant. Like life here on earth is not that, it's not something we can like hold on to and have like security in like our kids being here because they can be taken at any time. Like so it just gave me like, and honestly the further out we get from it the harder it is to remember that. It was so very vivid and like obviously because we had just went through that coming home I was like, I will never take this for granted. Like I will hold her for every nap. Like which I have had to like loosen my grip. Like I can't be that rigid about anything, like all or nothing. But it's probably the reason why she will barely take a bottle because we're like inseparable. And she is like, no, mom's like just the boob. That's all I want.
Yeah.
But like I am grateful. Like when I came home, I was like, I'm not going to take any of this for granted. Like I'm not going to go through the motions and like try to get her to, not be a newborn so I can do these other things. I'm just going to try to embrace like where she is and loving her, and bonding with her and, like really cherishing that. So it's been good. We're good now.
It's been good. You're good now.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Well, as we wrap up, I just wanted to give you a chance to say anything else you might want to, or if you have any advice for any parents out there. I know you've spoken a lot about the Lord teaching you to trust and to surrender and that, amazingly, a lot of times we talk about that with people's birth stories, but that wasn't your birth story. It was your postpartum story. So, that theme of surrender carries on through postpartum and through motherhood, honestly.
Yeah, totally. Something that like I've been reminded of like as a doula is like how like it's important to not like compare your experience to another mom's because like births, everyone has like some type of difficulty like in motherhood. It's like if you have an easy birth you might have a hard time breastfeeding. If you have if you have a really easy time breastfeeding you might have a difficult birth experience. You might have like
you might have a really hard pregnancy and then a dream birth.
You might have a hard pregnancy and like and your postpartum is really smooth, So I've really learned not to like compare my experience with others and like just knowing that like the Lord is like sovereign and he knows exactly what we need and how he plans to like grow us through different experiences. And I've seen that through, like, with both of my kids. Like, my postpartum has been difficult. So, like, from the outside, like, when I tell people about my birth, like, they might think, oh, that was like so easy, like you barely even struggled through that, but then, like, the postpartum part was really tough. So I just have learned, like, to have so much more compassion for, like, where people are and what they're experiencing, because there are so many different aspects of motherhood, and, like, the chances are you're going to face some type of difficulty in one of those, like, realms, whether it's like pregnancy, birth, breastfeeding, postpartum, like all those things. But yeah, I think it's just grown my compassion, like, for other people, and like what I've walked through too. Like, and it's just a good reminder that, like, what we go through is like, it has a purpose. Like, like, I've seen it be like redemptive, because, like, even just this, like, literally 2 days ago, I was at the park, like, talked to these two moms that were both telling me how much anxiety they have about their kids' health. And I was like, well, let me tell you something, like, because I've walked through this, like, with my daughter, and I've had to surrender that, and I've learned, like, that I can trust God, like, with her. Like, it's not up to me, it's up to him to, like, take care of her. Like, I have to do my best and then, like, trust him to take care of it. And I know that's basically, like, your whole motto with the podcast and the, like, surrendered birth services, is like, you have to learn all that you can and, like, make the best plans and then leave it up to the Lord. And that's what I'm learning for postpartum and, like, all of motherhood, not just birth. So
yeah, absolutely, you're right. The Lord doesn't waste anything. He uses it all. I mean, now Winnie's story is part of your testimony and what you'll be able to share, just like you did at the park, and with other mothers in the future too. So I love that. Thank you. It was so good to talk to you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. You can reach me at Surrendered Birth Services on Instagram, or email me at contact@surrenderedbirthservices.com. Be sure not to miss an episode by hitting the follow button. Also, we'd love for you to leave a written review of the show so that more people's births and lives can be changed by the love of Jesus and the empowerment of accurate birth education. If you really enjoyed this episode in particular, please take a screenshot of it and post it to your Instagram story, tagging Surrendered Birth Services. If you would like to be a guest on the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, please click the link in the episode show notes to fill out your interest form. Also, if you're interested in taking my childbirth classes, birth consultations, or having me as your birth doula, please click on the link in the show notes to take you to my website for online and in-person options. Just as a reminder, this show is not giving medical advice, so please continue to see your personal care provider as needs arise. We hope you have a great week, and remember, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands. I might look a little funny. Usually I'm all like up, but I'm going to be laying back, back because I hurt my neck and my shoulder. And I like sitting up is really hard, and I don't want to like lay down, obviously. So Chris was like, here, try and put the microphone right at this one spot. And I'm like, okay, but I need to kind of like lay back.
Yeah.
So
what happened? How did you hurt your neck?
just being a mom,